Hey everybody, this is Phil from Zaid Comics, the co-creator and writer of the upcoming graphic novel Magic Cop, as you can see in the background there, set to launch in August on Indiegogo, and just one half of the two best-looking brothers in all of comics. And today we're going to be talking about the post-credit scene in the new Hellboy movie. But first, I do want to talk about Magic Cop. Today we just launched the pilot issue of Magic Cop called Magic Cop Karaoke Express. And if you guys got to read it, awesome. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't, then you got to head over to zaidcomics.com and sign up for our mailing list so you will be able to read that free 12-page pilot issue. And we're going to release it on May 4th for Free Comic Book Day, but you can read it right now if you go on over to our website, sign up there. It's just a proof of concept story, shows off some cool art, and really drags you into the universe that Magic Cop lives in to get people prepared for the launch of our graphic novel in August. So yeah, I really want to talk today about this Hellboy little Easter egg post-credit scene that if you're not a true diehard Hellboy fan, you don't even know what the heck is going on in that scene. So after the credits are done rolling, we see a close-up on the Baba Yaga, the witch from the story, who has this gripe and vendetta against Hellboy. And she is talking to a faceless person. We don't see who she's talking to. Here's a male voice. And she says that she's hiring this person to kill Hellboy, and his reward for it would be death. Now, as soon as she started talking, as soon as I saw this scene, I'm a big Hellboy fan, so I had a little inclination of who she was talking to, because this happens in the comic. She hires this character to kill Hellboy, and his reward for it was to be that he himself would be able to die. And that line right at the end there, where explaining that his reward would be death, was, oh man, that can only be one character, and that character is Koshchei the Deathless. Koshchei the Deathless is a character that came up in his first appearance is when Hellboy Darkness Calls, and he's a total badass. Mike Mignola took this character right out of Russian folklore, and we'll get into it and explain what his personality and the reason a reward would be death for him. And yeah, let's get into it. So the last year, or a couple of years ago, they launched this comic, as you could see. It's his own solo series, written by Mike Mignola, and it explains his backstory, how he had a run-in with the Baba Yaga, their relationship, and who he is, rather just what we see in the main Darkness Calls storyline. So this guy, I'm going to show you the first couple pages of this book, because it's a flashback to that issue in Darkness Calls, where they have this big fight scene. As you can see, Hellboy, knocking him out, but he grows giant size, and he's trying to kill Hellboy, and he throws this knife into his back. Hellboy dropping this handkerchief of one of Hellboy's allies, and then in this story, we see that Koshchei is retelling the story to actually Hellboy when they're both in hell. So the timeline of Hellboy is super, chronological. It's a steady timeline. There's no like retcons or multiverses or anything. Hellboy's been going on since the 90s to today, and that's why I love the story so much, because if you were a person that was a fan in the 90s, you could read along, and it's set in the present time you're reading it, unless you're reading something like Hellboy 1959, which he's had a series, in the 40s and stuff like that. So it's preludes to present day. But all in all, you could read it. If you were a fan of the 90s, you could read it, and he would, age, even though Hellboy doesn't really age, but the characters around him age in that time. So a few years ago, Hellboy actually died. And when this story takes place, he's in hell talking to Koshchei, which is pretty cool because, there were enemies. Koshchei, spoilers, he dies eventually, and he ends up in hell with Hellboy. So now we're going to take a look at who Koshchei really is and how he comes into play in Hellboy's storyline in Darkness Calls. Now, this was released in 2007, I believe, and you could go pick up this book, like the trades. See, this is the first trade, Seed of Destruction. And, Dark Horse put them out in these like trade volumes. This is the first one. So you could find the Darkness Calls one, or the way I, prefer to read them is these big library editions. Even though this is the second one, I think Darkness Calls it's collected in the 5th volume of this. And look at this thing on your bookshelf is badass. And I've actually read all of Hellboy at my local library, or checking them out through these library editions. And then I started collecting them, buying them off of Amazon. And recently, this past year, they actually have a more set, volumized, kind of like omnibuses, but they're in the preferred reading of Mike Mignola, how the order of things would go. But yeah, we first see Koshchei when Hellboy's hiding out in this house, and he's actually tracking him down. The Baba Yaga has hired him, just like at the end of the film, and Hellboy knows who he is. But it sets off this great big fight scene where they're just railing at each other, and the first time you see that he is, the deathless, he's immortal, and he doesn't die, and he's timeless, is when Hellboy jams this sword into his chest, and it really, doesn't faze him, and they keep fighting, and he cuts his head off. Koshchei just picking his head back up, placing it on his torso, and he's ready to fight, as he proclaims that he is the deathless. And so in between there, we have Hellboy being helped out by another, Russian folktale ally of his. It's a little girl named Vasilisa. She's like a ghost of this girl who comes into play later on in the story. And Hellboy actually sees when he dies, which is pretty cool. But Koshchei, he's after Hellboy because all he wants in the world is to die. He's been immortal for so long, and that's why I love this character, because in my writing of one of my favorite characters that I've created, a character named Wildcard, he's also immortal. He's a hero, though, and he's lived since Merlin times in like 600, right? So I really explore the fact that his fears and his woes come from being immortal, and all the memories he has to live with, and all of the lives that he have fallen around him. So Koshchei has that sympathetic aspect to him, where he's immortal, but he's lived for so long that he doesn't want it anymore. He doesn't want to be immortal. So as you see, Vasilisa is dying in Hellboy's arms at the hand of Koshchei, and the battle just keeps going on and on. She gives him some items to help him in the future, and it's a comb and a little handkerchief, as we saw in the Koshchei issue. And she, very Mike Mignola-esque, very Hellboy-esque. You see her in the bottom panel there, dead. She has transformed into a little wooden doll. Very supernatural and weird, very Mike Mignola. So they have this little standoff here, and the Baba Yaga is looking on through magic. She's watching this battle because she wants him to die. And as you can see, the Baba Yaga only has one eye at that bottom. Covering myself up here. in this bottom corner here. And here was Vasilisa. And in the bottom corner, the Baba Yaga only has one eye. And so her whole thing is she wants to take an eye for an eye because Hellboy took her eye and she wants that eye. And we explored that a little bit in the movie, kind of like that subplot that hopefully, if there's a sequel, will be explored in Hellboy 2. So he throws the comb at her, or sorry, at him, Koshchei, and this magic happens where this forest grows, entangling Koshchei in the branches, in agony, piercing his body, and Hellboy walks away. And unsatisfied, the Baba Yaga calls for Koshchei's soul. She says, "Bring me Koshchei's soul." And now this is going into the mythos of the Russian folklore. Now Koshchei is, you know, a myth in Russia, and the whole thing about him, of why he is immortal and how he is the deathless, we see right here. So his soul is inside of an egg that's inside of a duck, that is inside of a rabbit, that's inside of a goat, and that is lost throughout the world. And since no one knows or can get to his soul, that leaves him immortal. And now that the Baba Yaga is breathing more magic into the soul, kind of like this weird makeout scene between her and this goat, into the soul of Koshchei, the magic runs through him and he becomes like baned up. He becomes powered up with fire. And the fight keeps going on and on until, you know, Hellboy puts him down again, and she refuses to let Hellboy go and refuses to let Koshchei die. And one last time, using all of her magic, breathes it into this goat again, turning him into this giant beast. But her magic is spent. The lights in her house are going off, and he has become overrun with this magic and super weak. But he says with one last breath, he's not doing this for the witch, he's doing this for himself, and throws a dagger into the back of Hellboy, making him drop the handkerchief of Vasilisa. And that makes some magic, a chain reaction, makes some magic happen, flooding the mountain and the whole area around it, and, you know, engulfing Koshchei in this water. So this was one of my favorite parts of the whole Hellboy series, and it's very close to the end of Hellboy's life before he goes into hell, and it really is. It's a deep dive and that involves the Baba Yaga a lot. The Baba Yaga is an awesome character. Her, you know, her vendetta against Hellboy, and she'll stop at nothing because she wants his eye so bad and she wants his demise. And the Koshchei, all he wants is death because he wants to be freed of the prison of life. If you guys want to explore his backstory even more, go pick up this series, The Koshchei the Deathless. I'm pretty sure it's out in trade now. I was reading it, but I dropped off. I got lazy, and I think I only read about 5 issues of it, but they were good. It had his own backstory, you know, and you see how he turned into the person he is and why he basically sold his soul to the Baba Yaga for immortality, to be this feared like warlord. So he's in my eyes, he's very similar to Vandal Savage in that sense because he lives forever, he can't die, but there comes to a point in his time where he wants to die, and that's where he goes on this, you know, expedition rather, to find and kill Hellboy, but is bested. And this, just knowing this and having that little Easter egg at the back end of the movie really got me excited. It was so cool to see, and makes me really want a sequel to that. And a lot of the public don't know this character, they don't know what that means. So I really wanted to make this video to explain it to you all, and I hope you you dug it. I really dig the character and want to see him on the big screen, because that big cinematic fight where he turns giant size and all this, you have like the Baba Yaga with her fairies viewing it from afar and, raging about the outcome of it. It would be really cool to see it cinematically. So if you guys like the video and are not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, that really helps us, and hit that notification button so you guys know when we put out a new video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.